This session is going to be on leading organizational change across race, class, and gender. And I'm going to start off and, up to now we've talked about, we all, I believe, want to have more diverse organizations across these dimensions. But the question is, how do you get an organization to do that? What strategies do you have? So, there's a whole field in leadership called change management or change leadership. And one of the things they talk about is an 8-stage model of planned organizational change. So stage 1 is you get people excited about it, or you light a fire for change. Basically, you decide, you get the right people on board. So we're going to have a project for you this week where we're essentially simulating. Say your supervisor asked you to do a plan to increase the diversity across race and gender in your organization. So these would be the steps. So, really step 1 is what you're going to be doing now. You're going to be coming up with a proposal. But you're going to, if you're going to try to implement it, you try to get the right people on board. You're going to try to have a compelling picture, communicate the change widely, remove obstacles, and empower people to act, achieve and celebrate wins, keep moving, and then make changes stick. But most of what we're going to focus on for this assignment really is in step 1, right? So let me just do a refresher on some of the stuff that we covered. So we talked about the systems approach to leadership growth and strategy. You're talking in the bottom quadrant this time. So some of the strategies that are often used in this domain, you don't need to use these exact ones. You will have come up with these in your own assignment for last week whenever you did this. But for quadrant 3, providing training to staff on cultural biases and some of these other factors, training on culture. Support senior leaders to set culture. You need to have diverse senior leaders because culture is often set by the leadership. And then having affinity groups for women and people of color in your organizations. Often diverse churches will do that. And same thing with ministries, and then developing mentoring programs. So all those have been proven to help on the cultural level. And then the other would be to learn yourself and to train staff on structural biases, and to set priorities for diversity in your strategic plan, to develop policies to support women and minority leaders, to track diversity measures in your organization. If you don't measure it, then how do you, is it really going to be a priority? Another thing is healthy revenue to invest in diversity and budget to invest in diversity. There's a lot of organizations that will come up with a great plan, but then they don't budget to make it possible. And it's more expensive, honestly, to be a diverse organization in the short term. So let me talk about a common strategy going, deeper into this, having a leadership pipeline strategy. So, one is, and this would be how the whole organization could do this. So you have the board and senior management set diversity measurements and intentionality at every level, right? And then you try to have diversity at every level needed for the leadership pipeline. And you recognize that values and culture will be set by those in power in the organization. So ultimately what you need to have is diversity. It is as much diversity as you can in your organization at each level. So, 2 good examples of organizations that have done this well. One is the military. So at every level in the military, there is an amazing level of diversity across, honestly, across race, class, and gender. And so if they need someone to be promoted to middle management, then there's a giant pool of candidates. So they need someone to be promoted to senior management. There's a giant pool of candidates across all races, classes, and genders. And so that's one example. Another example of an organization that has done pretty well on this has been World Vision. And World Vision has just made it a priority. World Vision is really big on outcomes, so they measure everything. I'm sure they're tracking this. They track the diversity of their board. They track the diversity of their senior management, their diversity globally, and they've put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and they've done reasonably well, right? So now we've talked in the organization about how this course fits into an overall balanced leader program. So, you have these different skills, ministry and business skills, entrepreneurial and operations skills, and you have different courses, right? So in this course, fits in largely under having a healthy relational organization, right? But it's also how do you be a healthy leader overall. And recognizing that for any strategic plan, so because this is in this quadrant, you have to actually, any plan you do, you have to think about all 4 quadrants. So whenever you're doing that, you could say, well, let's be the healthiest organization ever. Let's hire twice as many staff. Let's pay everyone double. Well, you're not going to be financially solvent if you do that, right? So, so what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to think through, how do you get all of these dimensions? So how do you have relational health and funding health? Part of the reason why World Vision was able to be successful is World Vision is one of the best funded Christian parachurch organizations in the world. So that helps them. It's not, they had the budget, so all they needed was the will to apply the budget towards improving their diversity. And I'm sure they have, ways to go like any organization, but they were able to increase their relational health and the diversity of their organization. And then you have operational health and you have innovation health. And the idea is an organization needs to expand its health in all 4 of these dimensions. And you're trying to do one of these dimensions, developing a plan, but you can't all of a sudden, say you work for a university. You can't all of a sudden say, we're going to change the funding model for the entire organization overnight. That's going to wreck the organization. It's not going to have funding health. That funding health is going to make it not have relational health. And then, there's going to be this challenging spiral. But what you can do is have the organization try to, make some changes that would improve the situation, right? And part of what you're trying to do is you're trying to stretch the organization's cross-cultural limits to maximize its long-term mission effectiveness, and recognizing that you're a bridge between often the clients and the resources, and where's the healthy balance in this, right? So all those are factors that I'm trying to get you to keep in mind as you're framing this last project. So it's an organizational plan to increase diversity and leadership. So your supervisors ask you to develop a long-term strategy for your organization to improve the representation of women and people of color in leadership in your organization. Based on your own experience and material in this course and additional outside research you do, you may feel like that we haven't provided you with research in particular areas. Develop a 5 to 8 page paper recommending a strategy for your organization in this area. And that strategy needs to tie in and fit with the rest of the organization. So you may find it helpful to review the ideas from the organizational strategy section of the systems approach to leadership from last week, which I already did in this presentation. And where possible in your paper, this is supposed to be a synthesis. So integrate concepts from this course so far, ideas from the management consulting reports, and you may look up other management consulting reports. Now, this is an organizational paper, right? It's not a personal paper. It's not a societal paper. It's an organizational paper. As well as concepts from the reading this week. There were 3 chapters. So one was on developing leadership diversity, shaping culture and values, and leading change. So try to summarize all this and basically provide that to your organization for strategies of how to improve. So again, follow APA format. And if you have any questions, please ask your faculty member. Thanks a lot.